It occurred to me that we have been using the words doing the work, right? And no matter who you're following, any spiritual teacher, even if it's within yourself, of doing deep inner work, that's what we refer to it as doing inner work. And that word, work, has such a connotation to it, right? So it makes it feel like it must be hard or it must be effortful and that we have to really try. And that word can also mean force or control. Work is usually our active involvement in using our effort in doing something. And yet, what we actually are doing is teaching our bodies how to relax. So perhaps we can change the way that we are interpreting what we're doing from being work, because our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference and could be just feeling like, oh, it's time that we have to do, but it's really not doing. It's really more about being. It is discovering who we really are. And the only way that we can really get into those deeper layers of awareness is by not forcing and controlling, but by teaching ourselves that it's safe to just be. And that's the part that many people struggle with, because even if we're meditating, most times our mind is still thinking, right, about all the things that we still have to do or the things that we might not have done that we should have. So if you've gotten really good at it and your mind isn't like a monkey brain where it's constantly, all over the place, the rest of the time when you're not meditating, most of us are still focusing on, am I doing it enough, right? We're comparing to others and saying, oh, that person's meditating 3 times a day. I'm only doing it once a day. Maybe I'm not doing enough. And we are asking ourselves, am I doing it right? Am I doing it the way I'm supposed to? So when we catch ourselves in that trap of comparing to others, judging ourselves, wondering if we're doing it right or if we're doing it enough, it's all about control, having to do everything exactly the way someone else is doing it. If you see someone else doing a different modality, then thinking, oh, I wonder if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Maybe I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing it all. And what I'm here to share with you is that by allowing yourself to relax and being aware of those thoughts, each time you recognize those types of thoughts coming into play, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing as much as that person, I'm judging myself for not doing it perfectly, all of that resistance is getting in the way of your body feeling like it's already healed. Because that's really what it comes down to, is that the more that we're trying to figure it all out and thinking that we're not doing enough or trying to control, we are totally identifying with the mind, with the ego, because the ego is feeding us all of these critical thoughts about ourselves and we're believing it. And that keeps us from relaxing. That keeps us from the energy of already feeling healed. So this is the work, but it's not really effortful. It's really about being in a relaxed state more so that we can notice even more when we're not feeling relaxed. So I'm just cautioning you. I'm not saying you have to change the word, because it is doing inner work, but it doesn't have to feel like work. That's why I'm inviting, if it would serve you, to maybe switch that word to something that sounds like more easeful, right? Something that doesn't require a lot of effort. Because when we allow ourselves to just be present, the only effortful thing is to watching our thoughts. But we're not out there having to do every healing modality, and we're not out there trying to meditate our life away either. Because when we are living in the state of focusing on relaxing into this moment, into presence, into our body, and into our awareness, rather than focusing on the mind activity, that is what it's all about. And we can do that even when we're not meditating. In fact, it's more important to do it even when we're not meditating. Meditating is important because it brings you into that practice where you now have a practice that you're doing on a regular basis and you're committed to it. So it brings you into that space of, this is my time to practice staying present. But then even the rest of the time when you're living your life, you can continue to do the same thing with your eyes open. And what that can look like is practice being in a state of relaxation. My personal experience I'll share with you is that I recognized after I started doing the work, again, it is the work, so I'm not going to stop from saying it, but I started noticing that I used to live in a state of fight or flight and I wasn't aware of it at all. I was totally unconscious to it. In fact, I was unconscious. I have actually, I'm going to share something with you that I haven't shared with that many people. I had a huge pain body. I mean, a huge pain body. I could share with you things that would probably surprise you, how I used to go into reaction. I don't know if any of you can relate, but sometimes I feel like those of us who had a really huge pain body from our ancestral patterning, from our conditioning, from our family and our parents especially, if you have a parent who is totally unconscious and reacted over everything, which I did, I became that way. I was that person who used to go crazy over little things. I mean, really let them incite me. And I was totally identified with my mind. And I acted in a way that I now look at like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was so out of control, which I really was. So I'm sharing that with you vulnerably because sometimes I do feel that health challenge can happen a lot to people who have had a very unconscious life or a very strong conditioning or have had trauma in their life. And the biggest thing for us is to teach ourselves how to be able to relax because we've been living in a state of fight or flight our entire lives and haven't even been aware of it. We just thought it was normal because that's who we've always been. So instead of thinking about it as work, we can think about it as, no, this is my practice to relax, to take myself out of fear, take myself into faith by bringing myself into the present moment where I then get to choose where I put my attention. Now, I had said in my last video that we ultimately are the ones who get to choose when we're conscious of where we place our attention, right? So what does that look like? It looks like if we happen to be thinking about something, like because the mind has been feeding us thoughts about a worst case scenario, for instance, whether it be ourselves or a loved one, something that we're worried about, by bringing ourselves to presence, then we're no longer identifying with that thought. We are now not thinking at all, right? We're just in the present moment, just in the here and now. And from that place, we're not identifying with the mind. We're not in the energy of that thought, especially if we give ourselves a little bit of time to settle our body down and to be totally present. Then from that state, we are the ones who direct our consciousness of what we want to think about. We are the ones who draw up something else in our mind intentionally. Before, it wasn't intentional. It was just we received a thought, which we do constantly from our mind. It's an involuntary process, just like the pumping of our blood and the breathing of our body. Our mind is constantly feeding us thoughts involuntarily, and we tend to immediately accept and believe them because up until now, most of us have been believing that we are our thoughts, that is who we are. And now we know that's not true. So the more that we take our power back by bringing ourselves to the present moment, and then we get to choose by deciding where we're going to put our attention, what we're going to focus our attention on. So we can then choose to focus our attention on, no, these symptoms don't mean the worst case scenario. It's actually here for this moment so that I can practice on it, so that I can bring my attention to presence instead of get caught up and lost in fear. Instead, I'm going to calm my body down and rise above the thoughts by choosing that I'm going to put my attention on knowing that this is all here for this purpose. I'm choosing faith that this is here to serve me. This is here to show me who I really am, that I am the consciousness who gets to choose where to place my energy rather than continuing to be dictated by the mind. And that's what this is all about. And the more that we can relax into the knowing that this is all serving us and that it's not here forever, because as we become a new version of ourselves, we change our energy. And as we change our energy, our life changes. So I hope that this has served you. And I just want to invite you to share in the comments section if you are noticing that you have a hard time being in this state of relaxation, and if you've been interpreting the work as having to do and are living in a state of control and judgment that I'm not doing enough, I have to do all the things and I have to do them perfectly, right? But instead realize that no, relaxation is going to serve me more, because that's going to show my body that I'm actually safe, and that's going to help my parasympathetic nervous system turn on, which turns on the healing response. And that is, my friends, how we heal. So it's really about less work, meaning less control, less force, less effort, and more into the state of being relaxed, being in a state of faith, knowing this is here to serve me. And that feels so much more enjoyable, doesn't it? Okay, so I hope that this helps. And if you have any comments, I would love to actually hear from you. In what ways do you relax? In what ways are you going to start putting into place ways to relax more, to notice your triggers more, and bring yourself to presence so that you don't have to stay in that state any longer? Okay, I hope that this served you, and I look forward to seeing your comments. Talk to you all soon. Mwah.